Chapter 490 Eating Loss. Ji Yuner. Han Shiling looked coldly at Ji Yuner beside her. A hint of cold indifference appeared in her eyes. If I think she is pleasing to the eye or not, how is that related to you? Feeling Han Shiling's indifference, Ji Yuner also did not care as she sat down beside her. I'm just asking you. This Bailey Hongzhuang is not strong enough to be the member of a cultivation family and is an ordinary commoner. Di Bei Chen even gave you up for such a woman. I really don't know what he is thinking. What do you think? Ji Yuner grinned. In fact, this was her own idea. Listening to Ji Yuner's words, Han Shiling was still quiet, as if what she had just said had nothing to do with her. Do you really want to let Bailey Hongzhuang be with Di Bei Chen? When Ji Yuner got no response, she asked this. Han Shiling's mouth curved in a ridiculing smile as she coldly said, I don't need you to be worried about me. I'm sorry, I don't have the habit of yielding and being used by other people. Ji Yuner's face changed slightly. Wasn't it that all women would lose their senses if they faced such things? Why was it that Han Shiling was so calm after all this? Han Shiling, you misunderstood me. I don't have such an idea. The smile on Ji Yuner's lips widened a bit. Han Shiling's identity as not low. If she offended her, there would be no benefits. Just watching Bailey Hongzhuang makes me very upset. If you are interested, we can properly deal with her in the monument. Han Shiling chuckled. You see her and getting a bad mood is your business. I do not have interest in it. If you have nothing else to say, I want to cultivate. Seeing Han Shiling's attitude so cold and determined, Ji Yuner's face was a bit ugly. She did not understand why Han Shiling's reaction was completely different from her imagination. Is it that Han Shiling does not like Di Bei Chen? Impossible. The idea was dispelled by Ji Yuner as soon as it emerged. By her intuition as a woman, Han Shiling's feelings for Di Bei Chen were not ordinary. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Han Shiling with her arrogance to have been behind him so many years. Since she couldn't understand why Han Shiling's attitude was like this, Ji Yuner could only return back to her place angrily, and she did not conceal the anger on her face. Han Shiling was not an easy person to bully, but now she had been looked down on by both Bailey Hongzhuang and Han Shiling. This made her really mad. Lin Yirou, Yan Ling Xian, and Huang Fu Hui looked at Ji Yuner's frustrated look and their eyes were filled with gloating laughter. Ji Yuner's temper was not good, so there were not many people who could really be friends with her. They and Ji Yuner just acted cordially towards each other as children of various powers. They weren't even true friends. Ji Yuner's expression is really interesting, Yan Ling Xian said with a chuckle. On a normal day, she is so arrogant that I fear my arrogance is not worth mentioning. She thought that Han 11 Ling would be like her. However, Han Shiling is not like average people. Huang Fu Hui said as he laughed. Lin Yirou smiled at Huang Fu Hui, her eyes full of wisdom. Ji Yuner sees things as too simple. In my opinion, even if Han Shiling hates Bailey Hongzhuang, she will never admit it with that arrogant temper of hers. Not to mention, if Han Shiling wanted to deal with someone, she would need someone's help. In Yan Ling Xian's eyes, a touch of emotion appeared, and after careful consideration, he felt that Lin Yirou was extremely reasonable and could not help but admire her. Lin Yirou, I did not think you see through things so clearly. Ah. Lin Yirou's soft lips slightly curved, not because of Yan Ling Xian's words, but because she did not feel the slightest sense of accomplishment. I don't look through things clearly. I am only a bit more perceptive than others, and am clear about those around me. Yan Ling Xian looked at Lin Yirou softly. At this moment, he discovered that Lin Yirou was also a smart young woman. In the past, Lin Yirou always had a quiet temperament, not talking often, plus with Ji Yuner who was always active and attracted everyone's attention, he did not pay close attention to Lin Yirou. Until he heard Lin Yirou's remarks and discovered her intelligence. Sure enough, none of the outstanding disciples of the big families would be simple figures. Time flew by, and a night passed, and most of the ancient monument had now been revealed from the ground. The guardian beast's roar was also fiercer. Bailey Hongzhuang took in the sight in front of her eyes. The ancient monument was comparable to an entire imperial palace. The white building in the shadow of the sun and the whiteness of the atmosphere gave off an unspeakable sacred feeling. From this tall and majestic building, a sense of grandeur emanated, leaving people in awe. Outside the monument, the faint light, like a layer of water, reflected colorfully under the sun's rays. It was beautiful. However, none of the cultivators present there were in a mood to pay attention to this beauty. What they were interested in was if the ban had been lifted. This monument has been buried in the ground for so many years and the ban is still so strong. The strength of this monument's owner is evident. Lu Huaiyan's face was full of admiration. Practitioners who could build ancient monuments were the strong ones who had made a name for themselves. Facing such a strong person, they couldn't help but admire. He was already very lucky to have seen this monument, but if he could become such a strong person in the future, how happy he would be. With the passage of time, the energy of the ban is gradually dissipating. By evening, the ban will completely disappear. Fu Hongbo's eyes were full of wisdom. From yesterday to today, the energy of the ban was dissipating. Inside, he felt a little heavy. Once the ban disappears, the guardian beast will come out and the guardian beast's attacks will be very powerful. You must be more careful. Fu Hongbo nodded, his eyes falling on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When the ban dissipates, we will retreat. The guardian beast is of a high rank. You are not its opponents. If you are too close, you can accidentally get hurt. I don't know what the guardian beast is, it has actually been alive for so many years. It will surely be powerful. It should be a Qing Tian Mo alligator. Di Bei Chen said slowly. Hearing Di Bei Chen's words, everyone's faces changed. The Qing Tian Mo alligator, it was an extremely fierce demonic beast. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo did not doubt Di Bei Chen's words. With Di Bei Chen's background, it was natural his knowledge was vast. Since Di Bei Chen was so sure, it should be true. Her clear and refined face showed her surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang had not expected Di Bei Chen to be able to judge which guardian beast it was just from listening to the guardian beast's howls. If Baisher had not told her, even she would not know that the guardian beast inside was a Qing Tian Mo alligator. It seems that Di Bei Chen's knowledge of demonic beasts was really deep. This Qing Tian Mo alligator has been locked in the monument for so many years, and it has absorbed a lot of the toxic miasma. I'm afraid its strength can't be compared with a normal demonic beast. Di Bei Chen's eyes were full of a wisdom. His master had often traveled with him, so he has a lot of knowledge. Many demonic beasts were ordinary, but in certain special circumstances, they would evolve and become different, and these demonic beasts were more powerful and others should always be careful in front of them. This Qing Tian Mo alligator has been trapped for so many years. The food in the monument must be over already. It will be very hungry. Once it comes out, it will be very manic, and its strength will be very scary. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She knew quite a lot about ancient monuments. Once the monument was buried, nobody knew when it would be revealed. Therefore, the guardian beasts of many monuments would be starved to death, but if the guardian beast survives, their strength would become very scary, especially the moment the guardian beast was released from the ruins. It would be manic and treat everyone as its food. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's insights, others nodded. I seem that they really should be farther away from this guardian beast. We should retreat to some distance away. Sometimes, these guardian beasts will come out when the ban has not completely lifted. Just in case, we should go back now. Bailey Hongzhuang continued after feeling a wave of fluctuations from the monument. The others were a bit surprised. According to their understanding, the guardian beasts should not be able to come out before the ban had completely dissipated. We have to be careful, we should retreat some distance. Xia Zhiqing agreed. The others also didn't have any objections. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang walk towards the back, Ji Yun'er's ridicule-filled voice rang out. You really have no strength, the guardian beast has not even come out yet and you are already afraid and hiding. You are so bold, if you have the ability, come to stand here and don't stay back. Ji Yun'er's eyes were full of pride. A person born a plebeian will stay such. Before a ban has dissipated, it is impossible for a guardian beast to come out. However, just as Ji Yun'er's voice fell, the eyes of Xia Zhiqing and the others went very wide as they looked in front of them with horror. You idiot, take a good look at what's behind you. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. She no longer felt like paying mind to this idiot Ji Yun, and she quickly retreated a few hundred meters away along with Di Beichen. Ji Yun'er listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her mouth arcing up disdainfully. You want to cheat me with this silly trick? Do you think I was born yesterday? Ah. Miss, get back fast. At this point, the cultivators beside Ji Yun'er quickly shouted. Ji Yun'er's face changed as she looked behind in surprise. She only saw a giant blue-eyed devil alligator running out of the ancient ruin. Ah, Ji Yun'er screamed, her entire person scared silly by the sudden appearance of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Chapter 493 A Shameless Idiot. Oh! The Qing Tian Mo alligator opened its bloody mouth and suddenly headed towards Ji Yun'er. When the cultivators of the Ji family saw this, they quickly retreated with Ji Yun'er towards the back. Oh! The Qing Tian Mo alligator apparently had not expected that the food about to enter its mouth would suddenly fly off, and his heart burst with dissatisfaction. With an angry flick of his tail, he had destroyed the trees next to him. The sudden appearance of the Qing Tian Mo alligator surpassed everyone's expectations. If not for everyone's eyes were locked onto the ancient monument, it is feared that many cultivators would have already died the moment the Qing Tian Mo alligator appeared. After Ji Yun'er escaped, she was pale and stood in the distance, breathing heavily, her face full of horror. If it wasn't for the cultivators of her family who had pulled her away, she feared that she would have already become food for the Qing Tian Mo alligator. How could a Qing Tian Mo alligator appear so suddenly? Not to mention that a guardian beast cannot come out before the ban is lifted. Yan Ling Xian was shocked. If he hadn't responded quickly enough, he didn't know what kind of consequences he would be facing. At the moment, Huang Fuhui could no longer keep his aloof appearance. There are few traces of guardian beasts in a monument, so many people do not understand the situation well. Then, everyone's eyes could not help but fall on Bali Hongzhuang's body. All of they had not known that the Qing Tian Mo alligator would suddenly appear, but Bailey Hongzhuang, who had elegantly retorted, knew and had retreated along with the people of her college. Could there really be such a coincidence in the world? Or was it possible that Bailey Hongzhuang expected that the Qing Tian Mo alligator would appear earlier than expected, and thus reminded the students of the Tsanglan College to stay away? The hearts of the people were full of a complex feeling. However, after careful consideration, everyone thought that this was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to say such things out of luck. It was very likely that Bailey Hongzhuang had already expected this. At the thought of this, everyone's faces became even more puzzled. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person, but with this move of Bailey Hongzhuang, they were even more sure that Bali Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person. Hey, aren't you very powerful? How can your expression be so scared at this moment? Bailey Hongzhuang lifted her chin slightly, the corners of her mouth lifting in an enchanting laugh as she mocked Ji Yun'er mercilessly. She had always been a person who gifted upon others what they gave to her. Since Ji Yun'er had taken the initiative to find trouble with her, she also didn't mind laughing at Ji Yun'er. Ji Yun'er's face was very pale. At the moment, after listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her hatred for her became even more intense. Nonetheless, she was now not even qualified to ridicule Bailey Hongzhuang now. You just had some good luck, so what? Ji Yun'er pondered for a moment and could only say this as a retort. Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly, "What do you think about how you look right now? You look so pale and scared, not at all gutsy." Xia Zhiqing and the others had a smile on their faces. Ji Yun'er's previous words were skillfully countered with this and they snorted in laughter. Instead of her mocking Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yun'er had been turned into a joke. Han Xiling slyly glimpsed at Ji Yun'er, her eyes full of disgust. Idiot. Fortunately, she didn't say anything to this idiot, or even she would have lost face along with this idiot. Chapter 49 Attacking the Qing Tian Mo alligator. When the Qing Tian Mo alligator appeared, its bloodthirsty eyes were locked onto the people and its bloody mouth was open to reveal blood and watery drool. In the ancient monument, it had been hungry for a long time. It had not expected to see so much food as soon as it came out. It was worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the Qing Tian Mo alligator in front of them. Seeing the Qing Tian Mo alligator's entirely blue body, black lines appeared on her forehead. Its eyes were black and ball-sized, exuding a ruthlessness as it stared at them. Dense scales covered its entire body, making it more menacing. The Qing Tian Mo alligator was a kind of hard-to-find demonic beast. Its scales were hard and ordinary weapons would not be able to penetrate it at all. Not only that, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was also extremely powerful, and its giant tail was a great weapon. One sweep of the tail would be able to knock down many heavy objects. Once hit by its tail, a cultivator is most likely to vomit and die. At this moment, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was grunting and watching the crowd as it fantasized about food, thinking which one it should eat first. I didn't expect that the guardian beast in the monument would turn out to be a Qing Tian Mo alligator. It will be difficult to deal with it. Yan Ling Xian frowned. It seems that the owner of this monument was even more powerful than we imagined. The strength of the Qing Tian Mo alligator is already at the Huang, yellow, border. In my opinion, it will be impossible to defeat the Qing Tian Mo alligator with the power of a single family. It won't be as effective as everyone attacking and killing the Qing Tian Mo alligator together. How about it? One of Ji family's cultivators said. Hearing those words, the powerful exponents in the crowd nodded. Good. Everyone will join hands to kill this Qing Tian Mo alligator. In the face of such a powerful demonic beast, the younger generation was simply not its opponents. Only by relying on them will this trouble be solved. Lu Huayan and the Fu Hongbo looked at each other, then nodded together before immediately rushing towards the Qing Tian Mo alligator. You stay in place, don't come. Their voice sounded in the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo had already disappeared from in front of them. Since the 4 cultivation families and the cultivators of Tian Gangzong had already contributed, if they continued to stay in place while doing nothing, it would not be right. Since they came here, they will try to find the treasures within the monument. If they did not contrite at this moment, once the Qing Tian Mo alligator has died, the 4 cultivation families and the cultivators of Tian Gangzong may not even let them enter the monument. At that time they would be helpless. Seeing the actions of the 2 teachers, the eyes of Gog Shaoqing and the others gradually changes. It was not easy for the 2 teachers. HHHGH. The Qing Tian Mo alligator snarled as it saw so many cultivators rushing towards it, a flash of excitement flashing in its eyes. It felt very hungry, and these morsels or food had arrived automatically. Shing! The sound of iron and other metal types of long swords slashing onto the Qing Tian Mo alligator's body came. However, the fierce attack that fell on its body did not even pierce the scales of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Only a shallow white mark was left on the scales. Damn it! This Qing Tian Mo alligator's defense is too strong. The face of the master from Ji family was a bit ugly. Although he had known that the Qing Tian Mo alligator would not be easy to deal with, he had not thought that the defense of the Qing Tian Mo alligator would have metamorphosed so abnormally. Chapter 495 Only slightly worse, Qing Tian Mo alligator O. After the first cultivator tried, the attacks of other masters fell onto the body of Qing Tian Mo alligator. The same attack still could not break the defense of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, and the huge tail of the alligator kept sweeping them away. The crowd could only escape constantly while looking for opportunities to attack. Faced with the attacks of the crowd, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was still very calm. These kinds of forceful attacks fell on him but felt like tickles. We will attack the same place. We have to find a breakthrough and opportunity. Lu Huayan's Yuan Li condensed as he shouted. Listening to Lu Huayan's words, the exponents of the 4 families and Tian Gangzong only nodded. This was the only way they could proceed now. The only weakness of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was its abdomen. But attacking there was near impossible because of the alligator's short legs. Together with its constantly biting head and sweeping tail, they had no way to attack the Qing Tian Mo alligator. The alligator's abdomen was even more out of reach. As a result, Lu Huayan's approach became the only solution. Ding! Oh! After deciding on the attack method, everyone concentrated their attacks on the same area. The original hard scales were inevitably shattered under everyone's attacks and blood flowed from the back of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Suddenly, the tingling sensation turned to pain, stimulating the Qing Tian Mo alligator as its snarls became more fierce, and its attacks also became fiercer. Thunk! Every time the Qing Tian Mo alligator took a step, a terrible noise was heard from the ground. It was like an earthquake, making the people feel shocked. With the fierce attacks of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, many cultivators were injured. Boom! A cultivator of the Ji family was swept away by the giant tail of the Qing Tian Mo alligator and flew backward. The huge force made his viscera feel on fire as his entire body was shocked by the impact. Ah! Another scream rang out. A cultivator had been bitten by the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Arjich! The Qing Tian Mo alligator grunted as it chewed twice before swallowing the practitioner directly. A rich yellow light shone around the body of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. With the increasing number of wounds on the Qing Tian Mo alligator, the number of wounded cultivators was also increasing. I did not expect this demonic beast to be this scary. Bai Junyu's face did not conceal his shock. He had always known that demonic beasts at the Huang, Yellow, border were very scary, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. He had not felt how strong they could be. The strength of these cultivators was already very strong in his opinion, but in front of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, they were weak. This was the terrifying power of the congenital realm. Nothing will happen to the two teachers, right? Lu Qinyu's face was full of fear. In this group of people, the strength of the two teachers was not very strong, they could get hurt. Blood dripped down Lu Huayan's mouth, he had already suffered a heavy blow. Under such circumstances, a single careless move would cost him his life. I believe that with the strength of the two teachers, they will not be in danger. Xia Zhiqing murmured, both eyes staring intently at the situation, her heart full of worries. Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing's face was dignified. This Qing Tian Mo alligator has been injured by the attack of so many people, I believe that it will not be able to persist for a long time. Only a fatal wound can kill the Qing Tian Mo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Chapter 496 Are they crazy? When Bailey Hongzhuang's words sounded, Di Beichen and she looked at each other. They understood each other's thoughts. In the next moment, before everyone's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had rushed directly towards where the Qing Tian Mo alligator was. What are they going to do? Xia Zhiqing could not help but exclaim, the Qing Tian Mo alligator was a demonic beast at the Huang, Yellow, border with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, fighting with the Qing Tian Mo alligator was tantamount to looking for death. As soon as this remark came out, some other people's eyes also condensed on the body of the two people, everyone felt somewhat bizarre. The masters of the various forces had not killed the Qing Tian Mo alligator, what could Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, these two people do? This Bailey Hongzhuang is too overconfident, really finding death. Ji Yun'er's voice was full of ridicule, her eyes full of viciousness, the scene that had happened just before had made her lose face in front of all people. Regardless, she must get it back. She was the glorious young miss of the Ji family, being ridiculed so by Bailey Hongzhuang, where would her pride go? I didn't expect that with Di Beichen's great strength, his sight in choosing women would be so poor. Ji Yun'er said, her words full of disdain. In front of so many people, Di Beichen had not given her any face. At this moment, she even hated Di Beichen. Di Beichen is acting a bit too impulsively. In such a situation, rushing forward is no different from looking for death, Huang Fuhui frowned. Even Lin Yirou, who had always been more intelligent than others, was somewhat puzzled. Could it be that Bewitching had a way of dealing with the Qing Tian Mo alligator? Judging from the current situation, although the Qing Tian Mo alligator had been injured, it was still obviously very powerful. Once they rushed in, they would surely be attacked by the Qing Tian Mo alligator. This was a reckless decision. Maybe the two of them really are confident. Yan Lingxian said as his eyebrows rose. He looked rather uncomfortable. For excellent geniuses, like them, one less competition was not a bad thing. Han Shiling's face that had been indifferent since beginning to end, changed a bit after seeing Bewitching rush forward. Big Brother, staring at the two figures, one white and one gold, she could not help but frown. Originally, the person who could be next to Big Brother was only her. Others may not understand the strength of Bewitching, but she had known her big brother for so many years, so she still understands the situation of Bewitching. If he had rushed forward, Big Brother certainly had an idea of how to kill the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Bewitching had not thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would rush alongside with him. However, after seeing the confident appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, a faint smile appeared on his lips. What they both needed to do was not to fight the Qing Tian Mo alligator, but to attack. You go left, I'll take right. As they appeared in front of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, Bailey Hongzhuang shouted. Okay. Bewitching also yelled. The next moment, they two people rushed forward to the two sides of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo saw that Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang had suddenly appeared under such circumstances, and their faces were filled with intense tension. You brats! What are you two doing here? Lu Huaiyan's voice was filled with anger and worry. In such a situation, even if they were both in danger and risk, why had these two people rushed forward? The attack power of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was so terrible that they can't protect the two of them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled before saying, Teacher, don't worry about us. Chapter 497 is not simple. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo were both confused. In the face of such a dangerous situation, the two did not have the time to think too much. They only knew that Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang were not impulsive people. Since they had rushed forwards, they must already have plans. Bailey Hongzhuang used her shifting shadow technique and had already jumped onto the back of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. After the Qing Tian Mo alligator felt that someone was on it, its entire body began to shake constantly, only wanting to shake off Bailey Hongzhuang from its back. Bailey Hongzhuang had a sword in her hand. Her eyes had been set on the wounds of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. The next moment, she did not hesitate to pierce the back of the Qing Tian Mo alligator using the sharp sword in her hand. Kasich. A clear and subtle voice sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang's body had deeply pierced the alligator's body. Oh! The sudden and intense pain deeply spurred the Qing Tian Mo alligator, as it suddenly snarled and madly rioted. All of a sudden, the masters next to the Qing Tian Mo alligator were all stunned and had to recede. Once the Qing Tian Mo alligator went berserk, its fighting power would be even scarier. The people looked in horror at the entanglement of Bailey Hongzhuang and the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Regardless of how the Qing Tian Mo alligator swayed, Bailey Hongzhuang stayed on its back. Not only that, but the blade she had used to stab the Qing Tian Mo alligator was still embedded in its body, as blood continued to spill out. Yan Lingxian and the others were surprised. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes were even more incredulous. Just climbing onto the Qing Tian Mo alligator's back already required great courage, not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was currently in such a dangerous position. My God, Bailey Hongzhuang is too strong, right? Xia Zhiqing opened her mouth wide, looking sluggish. She had never imagined that Bailey Hongzhuang would climb onto the alligator's back. By June, you swallowed. If it wasn't for the scene occurring right before him, he wouldn't have believed it. The cultivators who were dealing with the Qing Tian Mo alligator were too afraid to climb onto its back. In addition to Bailey Hongzhuang, not many can do this. Dong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu were both silent. They had to admit that this method Bailey Hongzhuang had come up with was really excellent. In a short period of time, the injured the Qing Tian Mo alligator suffered had become more and more serious. Ji Yuner, who had been taunting, could not speak. In fact, such a move by Bali Hongzhuang really made people feel uncomfortable. This Bali Hongzhuang is really not simple. Huang Fuhui chuckled, the eyes watching Bali Hongzhuang became bright. Han Xiling felt a hint of embarrassment, and negative emotions flashed in her eyes. She had always been conceited, she always thought that she could do this and that she was the best. She just did not want to bother wasting her time. Now seeing other people's gazes, her heart was full of unpleasant feelings. If these gazes had been directed at somebody else, she might not have cared, but since the person was Bali Hongzhuang, it was not the same. Oh! The Qing Tian Mo alligator swept away, and the ground cracked under the force of its huge till. The situation of Bali Hongzhuang was also very dangerous, but she escaped narrowly and dangerously every time. Finally, after the Qing Tian Mo alligator could no longer withstand the pain from behind, it turned over. Chapter 498 Witty Lady. The Qing Tian Mo alligator turned to its back very quickly, with almost no sign, its entire body collapsed to the ground. Obviously, it wanted to flatten the nasty guy who was on its back. Bali Hongzhuang's speed of response was also very fast. She jumped down as soon as the Qing Tian Mo alligator was about to turn over. However, everyone has not seen the sharp reaction of Bali Hongzhuang. A pale golden figure had already rushed towards the belly of the Qing Tian Mo alligator with a lightning speed. Everyone present was aware that the biggest weakness of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was its abdomen. There was no defense on the white skin. At this moment, attacking the Qing Tian Mo alligator's belly was naturally the best thing. Laugh! A fierce light from a double-edged sword flashed, and everyone merely heard the sound of flesh tearing. Then, the Qing Tian Mo alligator's body burst as if ready to explode as it got ready for another round. The power of a Huang border cultivation broke out. After seeing this scene, Di Beichen and the others did not dare to delay as they quickly retreated. They all saw the Qing Tian Mo alligator's red eyes. All the people there knew what this was. It was the berserk state. This is the berserk state of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Everyone should retreat. It was a wonder who shouted, but the people reacted quickly, not daring to delay by even half a second. They fled. The Qing Tian Mo alligator madly chased everyone. The powerful Yuanli attacks were desperate, and the surrounding trees fell from its force. Damn, the berserk state of this Qing Tian Mo alligator is really very horrifying. Yanling Xian ran away while cursing. Di Beichen looked for Bali Hongzhuang, who had jumped away just a moment before the Qing Tian Mo alligator flattened her. Both their attack had fatally injured the guardian beast. With the strength of Qing Tian Mo alligator, its speed was extremely fast, so they only had one chance. No matter whether they were successful or not, for now, they could only leave. But, obviously, he succeeded. One hand pulled Bali Hongzhuang in the rush, as Di Beichen greeted her with a bright smile. Wifey is really witty. Your strength is comparable to a cultivator in the congenital realm. The previous move made by Bali Hongzhuang must have looked simple to some, but it was not very easy to succeed in it. In addition, it was extremely dangerous. However, the performance of Bali Hongzhuang surprised him. Although she was in such a dangerous situation, there was no panic. Her beautiful face was so cool that it was unbelievable. Your timing was also very accurate. Bali Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly, her beautiful face gazing at Di Beichen beside her. It seems that the way they cooperated was still very good. The Qing Tian Mo alligator should not be able to persist for long. Let's take a rest. After running some distance away, Di Beichen sat near a tree trunk, his entire attitude relaxed and casual. Bali Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She could feel the movement of the Qing Tian Mo alligator struggling in the distance as it became fainter and fainter. She believed that the Qing Tian Mo alligator must also be exhausted. Oh, the Qing Tian Mo alligator isn't moving anymore. Is it dead? Xia Zhiqing's eye flashed with curiosity. Previously she had felt the entire ground was trembling. If they had not known better, they would have thought it that an earthquake had occurred then. It should be, but we will not go over at the moment. Maybe the Qing Tian Mo alligator is not dead yet. Gong Xiaoqing said with a sigh. Some demonic beasts will continue to grow in intellect after attaining a certain level of cultivation. They must be careful. Chapter 499. If you want, I will accompany you. Previously, I had looked down on this Bailey Hongzhuang. With her cultivation being just at the mysterious Ian, and having so much courage, it is rare. Yan Ling Xian shook his head in exclamation. Before he had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was really courageous with the way she treated Ji Yuner, but he had not expected her to be just as fearless in battle. Seeing Yan Ling Xian's admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang, a touch of dissatisfaction appeared in the eyes of Ji Yuner, and her next words also had a hint of sourness. What's so great, can't everyone do that? Ji Yuner snorted. This kind of thing is not worthy of us personally fighting. As children of cultivation families, they had no need to undertake a task personally when the time came to fight. Ji Yuner, if you haven't eaten the grapes, don't say they are sour. Even if you do it, I am afraid you won't be much better than Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yiro said softly as she looked at Ji Yuner. Such an attitude, she did not like people like Ji Yuner. In fact, if Bailey Hongzhuang had also been from a cultivation family, she believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would be among the young generation of powers. Lin Yiro, what do you mean by that? Ji Yuner stepped forward, and a trace of anger appeared on her face. Since yesterday, Lin Yiro had been praising Bailey Hongzhuang from time to time. It was clear that she was taking the opportunity to mock her. What do I mean? I am just telling the truth. Lin Yiro felt quite indifferent, she did not care about Ji Yuner's question. Ji Yuner, you should know that with who I am, others may be afraid of you, but I don't have a reason to be. Lin Yiro whispered softly, an indifferent and cold expression appearing on her gentle face. Han Shilin looked at that conflict between Ji Yuner and Lin Yiro, a very strange feeling appearing in her heart. It seemed that although Lin Yiro appeared soft and weak, underneath there was a strong heart. Ji Yuner obviously did not expect that Lin Yiro would go against her, and her face turned ugly. I don't have the time to squabble with you. After we come out of the ancient monument, we will slowly settle this account. If you want to, I will accompany you. Lin Yiro softly raised her eyebrows, not putting Ji Yuner's words in her heart. Master, the Qing Tian Mo alligator is dead. Baisher's voice screamed in Bailey Hongzhuang's head. Then we should go now. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Master, I want the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Baisher squinted his small eyes, eagerly looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, thinking of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, the demonic crystal of it was very good. The Qing Tian Mo alligator was a Huang border demonic beast. The energy in its demonic core would also be very rich. It would be much higher than normal demonic crystals. It would really be very great for him. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a bit awkward, but she had completely forgotten about her contractual beast who would gobble demonic cores in seconds. Looking at the light flashing in the star like yes, it was impossible to refuse. I am going to get the demonic core. Di Beichen looked at the sudden change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, his handsome face filled with a trace of incomprehensibility. Wifey, what is the problem? Bailey Hongzhuang slightly shook her head, then pointed at the little guy in her arms, saying, this little guy wants to eat the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Hearing this, Di Beichen also reacted. The Beast King always liked to eat demonic cores. The Beast King is still young, the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator will be no small help for him. We should get the demonic core of the alligator now. Di Beichen said slowly, brimming with confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang also agreed, she would not let go of anything that could help Baisher. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen no longer hesitated as they quickly flew to the place where the alligator was. Master, the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator is very valuable, I am afraid that this group of people will not let you take the demonic core so easily. Xiao Hei's eyes had a touch of worry in them. For those guys' attitude, he was knowledgeable. Even if the Qing Tian Mo alligator had been killed under the joint effort of their master and Di Beichen, but because the strength of their team is not strong, it would not be easy to get it back from them. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly dazed, a touch of sorrow flitting past like lightning, before turning fierce and decisive. Since it is something I want, I have no reason to let others take it. Her cold voice was as arrogant as ever. It is not easy to take away the thing that she, Bailey Hongzhuang, wanted. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang be so domineering, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai also felt excited. This group of people had to hand over the demonic core. If they don't give it back, they will show them their power. Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned back to the front of the monument. The originally flat ground was now a mess, and there were more than one deep or shallow pits scattered all over the ground. It could be seen how terrible the attack power of the Qing Tian Mo alligator was. At the moment, the leader of the Ji family was cutting the head of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, apparently wanting to take out the demonic core of the guardian beast. Seeing this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the front of Ji Jianbin. This demonic core is useful to me. If you don't mind, give the demonic core back to me. As soon as she said this, the faces of the cultivators around them all changed. Ji Jianbin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, feeling a bit hesitant. The value of the Qing Tian Mo alligator's demonic core was not low, but it was not a big thing for their Ji family, not to mention that the Qing Tian Mo alligator had indeed been killed by the hands of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes turned to look at Di Beichen, and Ji Jianbin had already determined what to do. A thing like this demonic core was not too important. He did not need to offend Di Beichen for it. However, just as Ji Jianbin was ready to nod and give it, Ji Yun'er's voice sounded. No, this demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator belongs to our family. Why should we hand it over to you? Ji Yun'er looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her sharp and proud appearance was clearly provocative. Listening to these words, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile deepened, her gaze sharp as a knife that she used to pierce Ji Yun'er. From beginning to end, you have not done anything. What makes you qualified to have any say over who the demonic crystal belongs to? Not to mention, there were so many masters involved in killing the Qing Tian Mo alligator. Why do you say that this demonic core belongs to your family? Listening to these series of questions from Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yun'er's face became like the bottom of a pan. At this moment, this Bailey Hongzhuang was still so proud. I said that this demonic crystal belongs to my Ji family. Ji Yun'er did not care what Bailey Hongzhuang had to say. She had already made up her mind to act like a rogue. After seeing such an attitude from Ji Yun'er, the surrounding cultivators all showed a look of helplessness. Although Ji Yun'er was utterly shrewish, she had never been this capriciously mule-headed. They did not expect that in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she would entirely become a troublemaker. If I say so, that demonic core is mine. Her voice was cold, underlying with threats of death and despair, a bright light shining in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. For Ji Yun'er this trash, she felt too lazy to even pay attention. For provoking this kind of princess was tantamount to evoking infinite trouble for oneself. No matter what, she did not want to find trouble. It was always Ji Yun'er who took the initiative. Not only had she provoked her 3-4 times, at this moment, she was still being unreasonable. In her heart, the anger she felt was inevitable. Listening to the threat in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yun'er could not help but be furious, but after seeing the pair of eyes, bleak as ice and murderous, her heart was shocked. They pair of big, black yes emitted endless waves of murder. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was not as good as hers, but she still felt a chill run down her spine in the face of such intense murderousness. The beautiful face full of allure was also stained by the blood of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, adding a touch of bloodlust to the perfect face. Bailey Hongzhuang's brilliance was cold, and her pair of black, sharp eyes looked straight at Ji Yun'er, who was unable to dodge. The faces of Yan Lingxian and the others were also very strange. It was reasonable to say that Ji Yun'er was more powerful than Bailey Hongzhuang, but right now, the situation had been completely reversed. Bailey Hongzhuang's one simple sentence was full of such force. Ji Yuner turned dumb, which was strange. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo looked at each other, the emotions of their faces difficult to cover up. The aura of Bailey Hongzhuang is really something, it can completely suppress that Miss Ji. Fu Hongbo's face was full of doubts. Who is Bailey Hongzhuang? Even the daughter of General will definitely never be able to have such an imposing aura. Lu Huaiyan shook his head, he only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was not simple. I will give you 3 seconds, hand over the demonic core or the consequences after that will be yours to shoulder. Bailey Hongzhuang said, and everyone was able to feel the weight in her words. She didn't want to waste any more time on things other than the ancient monument. Since Ji Yuner likes to find trouble, she did not mind disciplining her. Ji Yuner's entire person had turned dumb. She did not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to pressure her so much, making it very difficult for her to even speak. Di Bei Chen's mouth was arched in an evil smirk, his deep black eyes shining with a little bit of appreciation. It seems that his fears were redundant. His wife had never been easy to bully. Such an imposing aura was enough to shock many people. 3. Bailey Hongzhuang held up 3 fingers, her expression icy. 2. Putting away 1 finger, the look on Bailey Hongzhuang's face was still indifferent as if it was just a simple countdown. However, everyone present at the scene felt extremely uneasy. Xia Zhiqing deeply admired Bailey Hongzhuang at this moment. Previously that Ji Yuner had been so arrogant, but now she had been completely suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 502 Ask You, Keep Dreaming. Such a Hongzhuang is really imposing. It was difficult for Xia Zhiqing to cover up her excited expression. For Ji Yuner's behavior, she had long been dissatisfied. Now that she saw Hongzhuang being so domineering, she felt great in her heart. What happened to that Ji Yuner? Why is she standing there without saying a word? By June you did not understand why Ji Yuner looked so speechless at the moment. You are not Ji Yuner, how can you understand her feelings right now? Gong Shaoqing's voice was very deep. Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum is very strong, and she has completely affected Ji Yuner, so the pressure on Ji Yuner is huge. At the moment, Gong Shaoqing was also awed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously, he had felt that it was suspicious for Bailey Hongzhuang to have such great medical qualifications. Now it seems that the background of Bailey Hongzhuang was not as simple as he thought. How can Bailey Hongzhuang's momentum be so strong? Yan Lingxian had previously only thought Bailey Hongzhuang to be a beauty, now he changed his opinion of her. Such a terrible momentum, even he wouldn't be able to anything at all. In his impression, only the head of the family will have such a pressing momentum, even if they say nothing. 1. People would feel a great pressure. There were few young people who had this kind of momentum. There were even fewer people among their generation with it. It was too abnormal for Bailey Hongzhuang to have it. Huang Fuhui, Lin Yirou, and Han Xiling were all silent at the moment. If they said that they would never meet Bailey Hongzhuang head-on, they had to admit it at this moment. 2. 1. After Bailey Hongzhuang said the last word, her momentum disappeared and Ji Yuner was relieved. If she hadn't kept warning herself that she couldn't agree, she would have already agreed under that pressure. When she thought about that possibility, she felt terrible. That was undoubtedly showing weakness to Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everyone. That is something she can't accept. Even if I don't give the demonic core to you, what can you do about it? Ji Yuner said strongly at this moment, she would not show any weakness to Bailey Hongzhuang, she understood it extremely clearly. You are not very bright. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips slowly curved in an enchanting smile, like a blooming devil's snare. 3. It evoked a deadly beauty, but it gave people an indescribable feeling of surprise. If you won't give it to me now, be careful, you don't ask for something from me. 4. Her voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to even pay attention to Ji Yuner and went straight back to her team. However, although no one had seen it, Bailey Hongzhuang had already sprayed a powder onto the body of Ji Yuner. As a qualified physician, her means of poisoning were also very good. She could often sprinkle poison onto others without them noticing it. Everyone was stunned by Bailey Hongzhuang's words. In their hearts, they sighed slightly. Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang just scaring Ji Yuner? 5. I will ask you for something. You keep dreaming. Ji Yuner sneered. This Ji Yuner is really overdue. Looking at her face, I want to smash her until she turns into a pig. Xiao He waved his fists in anger. There were so many white flowers, 6, they were particularly numerous this year. You don't worry, Master will not let that Ji Yuner off easy. Xiao Bai said somewhat proudly. He had been with Master for so long, he was also very understanding of their Master's character. Chapter 503 Hurt, Ji Yuner Baisher's sleek black eyes sparkled with curiosity and intelligence. Their Master was not a simple character, her means were getting stranger and more numerous. Whether it was Bailey Yu Yen or Li Yu Yu, they had all suffered at the hands of their Master. They believed that this time, Ji Yuner would surely suffer. Their Master had always been very decisive. As long as it was something that she needs, she would definitely get it, there was no worry for that at all. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferently at the ward on the periphery of the ancient monument. The light of the ward was becoming fainter as time passed. She believed that in some time, the ward would disappear completely. Wifey, what did you do to Ji Yuner? Di Bei Chen's long brows slanted, as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. He was very clear about his wife's personality. Since she was so calm, he was afraid that next there would definitely be a show worth watching. As for being the one to draw the shorter end of the stick, she had never been content with it. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile held a deep meaning, deliberately being mysterious. She said, "You wait and see." Ji Yuner deliberately put the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator into her own yin-yang pouch, mocking, thinking she is someone great, but being able to do nothing more than talk big. Yan Ling Xian and the others stared between Ji Yuner and Bailey Hongzhuang. They always felt that things were not so simple, but where the problem was, they could not think of it. I keep feeling like that Bailey Hongzhuang had done something. Yan Ling Xian frowned. However, the scene before had happened in front of all of them, and nothing looked out of place at all. What could she have done? Ji Yuner sneered. There are so many people present. Didn't she just spout some meaningless words? It was just a bluff. Just now, under Bailey Hongzhuang's pressing momentum, she was pressured until she became dumb, but now she was acting proud again. They did not understand how her brain worked. However, just as Ji Yuner finished with her words of mockery, her face became strange. Not because of others, but because she suddenly felt a sting on her body. How could this be? Ji Yuner was puzzled. This string seemed to come from within her body and was piercingly painful. Ah! Ji Yuner could not help but call out. The pain became more and more intense as time went by, and it gradually exceeded her level of tolerance. Ah, it hurts! Everyone saw that Ji Yuner's face was twisted up in pain, and their expressions became strange. Miss, what's wrong with you? After seeing this scene, the practitioners of the Ji family couldn't help but ask. It hurts! It hurts! Ji Yuner shouted, and her tone was more and more anxious. How can it start to hurt without a rhyme or reason? The practitioners of the Ji family were stunned, and their eyes could not help but look towards Bailey Hongzhuang, previously that Bailey Hongzhuang had told their miss not to come asking for her. Bailey Hongzhuang's was still looking indifferently at the ancient monument, and her eyes never stopped on Ji Yuner for even a second, as if everything that was happening had nothing to do with her. Damn, how can it hurt so much? I can't stand it. Ji Yuner's face was pinched in pain, and she felt pain in her every pore, such that she didn't even have a chance to breathe. The Ji family members were looking at Ji Yuner, and then Ji Yuner fell onto the ground. Chapter 504 deserves it. Feeling the constant waves of pain, Ji Yuner felt them to be intolerable, and as the pain became more and more intense, even her internal organs seemed to be hurting. Even though she had experienced a lot of pain in the process of cultivation, it was all nothing compared to the pain she felt at the moment. Ji Yun'er could not bear it as she rolled on the ground. Her luxurious silk dress had become contaminated and muddy, her hair messy and unkempt. If it had been any other time, Ji Yun'er could naturally not stand such an image of themselves, but at this moment she had forgotten everything, only hoping that this pain would reduce by even a few times. Lin Yi-ro and the others first felt strange about Ji Yun'er's reaction, but soon after seeing the pale and sweaty appearance of Ji Yun'er, they understood that this must be related to Bailey Hongzhuang. Today Ji Yun'er really looks like a monkey being played. Lin Yi-ro's eyes were full of disdain. From the beginning to the end, Ji Yun'er had been troubling Bailey Hongzhuang deliberately. The final result was that she had been utterly humiliated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Speaking of that, the current Ji Yun'er looked really pitiful. Yan Lingxian felt the same as he nodded. This time, Ji Yun'er really has been played. This Bailey Hongzhuang, although she is not strong enough, the methods she has are very strange, people can't ignore her. Huang Fuhui could no longer think of Bailey Hongzhuang as an ordinary person without a background because her direct method left even him feeling a bit chilly. Sure enough, any woman that Di Beichen liked was definitely not an ordinary person. If they underestimated Bailey Hongzhuang, they were only asking for trouble. For example, look at Ji Yun'er's current state. Han Shiling's slender brows were twisted. From their point of view, Ji Yun'er's current state had definitely been caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. However, just now, she never found any movement on Bailey Hongzhuang's part. So how had she been able to make Ji Yun'er suffer? At the thought of this, Han Shiling became a little more vigilant. This was the first time she had felt threatened by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to me? Ji Yun'er endured the pain as she questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows lifted slightly, looking indifferent as she quietly said, "Miss Ji, you cannot blame me like this, there were so many watchful eyes, but I did not do anything. I do not believe it. You must have done something." Ji Yun'er's eyes were hazy, her pretty face twisted in anger and pain. "You let me get better soon, or I will not let you go." Despite her words, Bailey Hongzhuang was as placid as the clouds, as if everything Ji Yun'er said had nothing to do with her. Miss Ji's words are really interesting, as if you weren't hurting now, you would let me go. Hearing these words, everyone was stunned. Many people laughed, unable to contain it. What Bailey Hongzhuang had said was true. Even if she relieved Ji Yun'er's pain, Ji Yun'er would still not let her go. In that case, why should she help Ji Yun'er? "Die, you horrid woman," Xiao Hei said coldly. This kind of person needed to be taught a lesson. If they weren't disciplined, their nose would always be towards the sky. It really isn't worth it even to kill her. Xiao Bai's face was full of disdain. Previously that Ji Yun'er's arrogance had been out of limit, but it amounted to nothing now. "Baisher, that demonic core should fall into your hands after a while," Xiao Hei said as he looked at Baisher. Chapter 505 means, Bailey Hongzhuang hearing those words, a touch of excitement appeared in Baisher's eyes. As long as he got the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, he would surely have a breakthrough. Thinking of this, Baisher couldn't help his happiness. Once he had a breakthrough, he could help his master fight. Looking at Ji Yun'er's expression, she must be in extreme pain. Xia Zhiqing looked at Ji Yun'er who was rolling on the ground. Even with her strength, she could hardly even speak under the effects of such agony. Bai Junyu nodded, it must be very painful, otherwise she wouldn't have become like this. The next moment, a flower like a smile graced Xia Zhiqing's mouth. Watching her hurt so much, I feel particularly happy. Bai Junyu thought that Xia Zhiqing's reactions were completely beyond his expectations, but in fact, he too felt that Ji Yun'er deserved such pain. Hongzhuang is really awesome, she even taught such an annoying person a good lesson. Xia Zhiqing's eyes were bright as she smiled. She did not have the ability like Hongzhuang's, but looking at things now, she felt very happy. This Ji Yun'er's background is not weak, and Bailey Hongzhuang has offended her like this. I am afraid that in the future, she will be strongly retaliated against by the Ji family in the future. Unlike Xia Zhiqing, Lu Huaiyan was full of fear. This Ji family had only come to the ancient monument for an experience. They did not bring a lot of people so others may not feel much, but he knew how terrible the ability of the Ji family was. As long as the Ji family wanted to retaliate against Bail Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang would surely fall into endless trouble. You can't blame Bailey Hongzhuang for this. Just with the presence of Di Beichen, that Ji Yuner can't do anything to Bailey Hongzhuang. It looks like this grudge is impossible to let go of. His low voice a bit helpless as Fu Hongbo shook his head. Now the situation had been set in stone, no matter what Bailey Hongzhuang did, this hatred would continue. Now that the result had been destined, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally had no need for being more reserved. It was better to teach Ji Yuner a lot of lessons, to make up for all that she had lost. I did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such an amazing method despite being such a famed doctor. This is incomparable to normal people. Her pretty face was filled with emotion as even Zhang Yunfeng looked impressed with Bailey Hongzhuang at the moment. Although the status of a doctor could not surpass that of a refining pharmacist in the Xingxian continent, offending a doctor wasn't a wise choice either. Bailey Hongzhuang, did you poison me? Ji Yuner's eyes widened, her face pale, the veins on her temple bulging as she asked unwillingly. At the same time, the cultivators of the Ji family all glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey, if you don't hand over the antidote now, then don't blame us for being impolite. One cultivator sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was still light. This is really interesting. I didn't expect such a big family to pour dirty water onto other people's bodies. There are so many people present here, did you see me poison her? It's wrong for you to do things as you like, it's too unfair. Give her to me. Ji Yuner sighed in anger, the hatred in her heart for Bailey Hongzhuang had reached an extreme. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang fell into their hands, she would make sure she never had a better day again. With Ji Yuner's words, the cultivators of the Ji family all raised their weapons and aligned them towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 506 You will be unable to live, who dares? When the Ji family cultivators were preparing to attack Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen's voice rang. His overbearing tone was full of anger and murderousness, his handsome and unparalleled face covered with frost, and his deep eyes were as sharp as an arrow, directly shooting the cultivator of the Ji family. Seeing Di Beichen's appearance, the faces of the Ji family cultivators changed instantly. They were well aware of the status of Di Beichen, who would most likely become the next sovereign of Tiangang Zone in the future. If just because of Bailey Hongzhuang, they were to anger such a promising successor like Di Beichen, it was undoubtedly very unprofitable to them. Moreover, they themselves knew for a fact that from beginning to end, it had been their young miss who was provoking others. If Ji Yuner had not been looking for trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang would not have treated her like this. But now Bailey Hongzhuang had put Ji Yuner in a situation where even they could not help. Seeing Di Beichen's protective attitude toward Bailey Hongzhuang, Ji Yuner's face became ugly. Di Beichen, I have known you for so many years, but now that Bailey Hongzhuang has hurt me, you will protect her. Ji Yuner's face was full of rage and paranoia. She did not believe that Di Beichen would rather offend the Ji family to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Unknowingly, Han Xiling had walked over to Di Beichen's side. Her beautiful, lotus-like face was a little worried. Di Dage, you should be clear about the identity of Ji Yuner, isn't this a bit too impulsive? Seeing Han Xiling say that to Di Beichen, the expressions of Xia Zhiqing and the others all changed. Di Beichen wouldn't give up on Bailey Hongzhuang, right? Although they were not the children or disciples of a big family, they were still very clear on how they had only their own interests in mind. If Di Beichen dares to give up on Bailey Hongzhuang, I will not let him go. Dong Fengyu quietly clenched his fists. In front of so many cultivators with high status, he had still been acting mild, but as long as he was there, he would never let them hurt Bailey Hongzhuang. Lu Qinyu looked at Dong Fengyu, an unspeakable feeling rising in her heart. Her line of sight could not help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang in front of them. All the conflicts that were occurring now were caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. but Bailey Hongzhuang herself acted like nothing happened, indifferent. I have a sense of proportion, Di Beichen said with a faint voice, and then raising his voice, Hongzhuang is my wife. If you want to deal with her, you must cross through me. Di Beichen stood in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. He had already shown his attitude with his actions. Han Shiling's face changed slightly. She had not expected that despite her advice, Di Beichen's heart would be unmoved. It had only been a short period of 3 years. Didn't she have any weight in Di Beichen's heart? You! Ji Yun'er's anger was unstoppable, her fierce and vicious eyes directed at Bailey Hongzhuang. If eyes could kill, I'm afraid, Bailey Hongzhuang would have died many times over already. If you dare to do anything to me, you won't live. Bailey Hongzhuang whispered faintly, her voice was still indifferent as if everything had nothing to do with her. However, when she heard it, Ji Yun'er's expression only turned fiercer. Bailey Hongzhuang, you still won't admit that you poisoned me. There is nothing I have to say. Why do you keep saying I poisoned you? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged, her expression innocent, but it just looked abhorrent in the eyes of Ji Yun'er. Chapter 507 You are a doctor. If you didn't poison me, why did you say that I should not ask you for anything later? Ji Yun'er gnashed her teeth, her eyes full of flames. Had it been under normal circumstances, such an expression would have been extremely powerful. However, under the effects of the severe pain, she could not even say a word properly. As for the force in her words, it was almost non-existent. The cold sweat had soaked through her clothes, she felt as if she was barely alive. I am a doctor. Do you want me to see what is wrong with your current situation? Bailey Hongzhuang looked calm, not revealing the slightest bit of panic. Her serious appearance made people unable to find the slightest trace of it being a disguise. You are a doctor? Ji Yun'er sneered. Do you think the people present here are all fools? Hongzhuang is a doctor, she is a godly doctor with superb skills. Xia Zhiqing said. Not only Xia Zhiqing, even Lu Huaiyan and the others nodded, they had personally seen the medical skills of Bailey Hongzhuang. It was very good and could not be compared to ordinary doctors. Originally, everyone did not put Bailey Hongzhuang's words in their heart. However, at this moment, after seeing that even the teachers of the Tsanglan College were nodding in approval, their hearts could not help but wonder. So, was it true that Bailey Hongzhuang really is a doctor? You say that you are a doctor, are you sure? Ji Yun'er sneered. You are all in a group. It is only natural that you will help Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Ji, what you are saying, it's not right. Lu Huiyan stepped forward, and his elderly face was a bit serious. I'm a teacher of the Tsanglan College, why would I lie about this kind of thing? We could get into this miasma forest because of the detoxification dam made by Bailey Hongzhuang. Xia Zhiqing followed. With Xia Zhiqing's words, Lin Yiro and other cultivators' expressions all changed. They were well aware of how toxic the miasma is. If not for their families, they would not have succeeded in entering the miasma forest. It was also for this reason that there weren't many people from each of their forces, otherwise, it was possible that there would have been much more cultivators. After all, no one could argue it was too much. Since Bailey Hongzhuang could develop a detoxification dam that could counter this miasma, it could be seen that the skills that she possessed were far beyond average. I had been wondering how they successfully entered this miasma forest. It turns out that Bailey Hongzhuang made a detoxification dam. Huang Fuhui said, his feeling complex. While as a cultivator, the background of their families was very important, many alchemists and doctors relied entirely on their own ability. The development of the detoxification dam by Bailey Hongzhuang proved that her medical skills were not simple. Once this news spread, it would be enough for many families to offer an olive branch to Bailey Hongzhuang. I can understand why Di Beichen likes Bailey Hongzhuang. It is because she is a doctor with excellent medical skills. Yan Lingxian said, with such a layer of identity, Bailey Hongzhuang's value was very different. 1. You have been poisoned for a long time, but the other party has made this toxin such that the toxins will take some time to attack, and this will hide all relations that they have with it. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was light and easy, her posture lazy and uncaring, not at all tense despite the fact that the other side had their swords pointed towards her. Nonsense, that is impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Whether you believe or not, it is your own business, but later it will get more and more painful for you, and you will start bleeding until you die. Bailey Hongzhuang gestured lazily, a bit of ridicule in her words, not the least bit worried for Ji Yuner. Master, what are you going to do? Xiao He asked doubtfully. Others may not know it, but they understood their own master. This kind of a strange poison could only have been developed by her. Fool her. Bailey Hongzhuang raised a delicate brow, light flashing through her beautiful eyes, sly as a fox. Why should you fool her? Xiao He had some doubts. Now that Ji Yuner's life was in their hands, there was no need to play around anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked, her eyes full of wisdom. I want her to accept giving me the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, and give it to me with gratitude. With her current strength, she could simply not compete with the Ji family. They previously had a conflict, so she can't let Ji Yuner die. What's more, with Ji Yuner's attitude, she, JY, would try her best to kill her, BHC, after she went back. Therefore, she must come up with a way to make the Ji family unable to do anything to her later. Sure enough, listening to the confident and determined judgment of Bailey Hongzhuang, even Ji Yuner's heart was swayed in confusion. In the Ji family, there were quite a few other competitive children who had strength similar to her. There were many people who would fight her for her position. She was no stranger to poison, and it was not impossible for someone to use it on her. For some time, Ji Yuner's mind was overwhelmed and she could no longer determine what to do. Doubtful thoughts flashed through the minds of Lin Yiro and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang's conviction in her words had even made them doubt the truth of the matter. Bailey Hongzhuang, you have to detoxify me. Ji Yuner was unable to think of other things at the moment, the pain in her body almost causing her to collapse. She had fallen into a state of weakness. If it went on like this, she would lose consciousness. Why should I detoxify you? Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her hands over her chest, her posture proud as she looked at Ji Yuner. She and Ji Yuner had no good feelings, on the contrary, they had had so many conflicts. Why would she ever help Ji Yuner? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yuner felt herself going crazy. This woman was really abominable. Di Bei Chen's eyes showed his appreciation and amusement. His wifey was really smart. The originally difficult situation had been completely changed with his wifey's words. Now Ji Yuner was even asking for her help. With just a few simple words, the situation had been completely reversed, and Bailey Hongzhuang may now even become the benefactor of Ji Yuner. Miss Bailey, we will have to trouble you to help our young miss in detoxification. The leader of the Ji family cultivators said. Although he was not a doctor, he could see that Ji Yuner's situation was very bad. It was very likely that Bailey Hongzhuang's words were true, and if they continued this way, Ji Yuner would suffer. I will save her, even after she tried to kill me. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. I will never suffer a loss trading. 1. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the faces of the Ji family cultivators became somewhat ugly. The contradiction between Bailey Hongzhuang and Ji Yuner had developed to a point where any semblance of peace was impossible. At this moment, they even appeared too demanding as they asked for help. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ji Yuner almost fainted. She couldn't help but think of the time that she had forcefully laid claim on the demonic core of Qing Tian Mo alligator that Bailey Hongzhuang. She hadn't expected things to come to this point. Could she lose even more face? Would she completely lose all of her respect today? Miss Bailey, the demonic core of the Qing Tian Mo alligator, we will hand it over to you, how about it? The Ji family cultivator asked tentatively. That demonic core was mine, but it was robbed by you. Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent, her stance on the matter unmoved. The meaning of her words was quite clear. A profiteer, the master is definitely the profiteer. Xiao He said, he felt amazed that his master could still fool the Ji family like this. Firstly, she poisoned the other party, and then let the other party ask her for help, and then she made them thank her for saving their lives. Their master was really good at such calculations. Sure enough, she is our master. I feel really convinced. Xiao Bai was excited. Seeing the shrill screaming of Ji Yuner, and the spurt of blood, he really felt very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are clearly trying to con us. Do you think our Ji family will give in to you? Ji Yuner was depressed to the extreme. She regretted everything. If she had known the first time that she would face such a situation, she would have never taken the initiative to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang. Absolutely not. Just that, now it was too late. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. I didn't say I wanted to take advantage of you. The reward I need for my work is extremely high. You don't want to give it, I don't want it. Her voice fell and Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to even look at Ji Yuner, who was still on the ground, anymore. You're such an annoying person. Even if I save you now, sooner or later in the future there will be people who will want to kill you. Saving you is a sheer waste of my strength. Such pretense. 1. You are still continuing to pretend. Ji Yuner screamed wildly in her heart, but she could say nothing with her mouth. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had completely eaten her. 2. The cultivators of the Ji family were speechless at this moment, and Ji Yuner was really helpless. Originally, they would have paid Bailey Hongzhuang the price required. But now, because of Ji Yuner, the price would be even higher. Miss Bailey, I have some valuable medicine here. I don't know if this will be enough to save our miss. Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent and proud. I will not take the attitude of your Mississippi. Miss Bailey, I have some money here, you can go buy something you want. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the golden card, still unmoved. Miss Bailey, I have some demonic crystals and medicinal herbs. The cultivators of the Ji family constantly superimposed their rewards, and each reward caused great shock to appear in the eyes of Xia Zhiqing and the others. I'll go, so many treasures, but Hongzhuang is still so indifferent. Xia Zhiqing's eyes were full of emotion. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang had made a lot of money. Dong Fengyu's eyes were full of smile. Hongzhuang is waiting for Ji Yuner to bow. Chapter 510 I beg you to save me. In the face of Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference, the faces of the Ji family's cultivators became difficult to look at. They had already paid a lot of money. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly made a noise. Even if I promise to help, I have to see if your Miss Ji is willing or not. Ji Yuner looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with resentment. This was the first time she had felt such hatred. This woman was really abominable. Mississippi. The Ji family's leader looked helplessly at Ji Yuner, indicating that Ji Yuner says something. Ji Yuner turned her head reluctantly. If she bowed her head today, she would not be qualified to look at the others properly. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang pushed away all of the things given to her by the Ji family cultivators, a faint smile on her lips. To help the dying and healing the injured is also predestined. I didn't want to do anything too much. But since Miss Ji's attitude is like this, I will not treat her. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and adjusted her body, just waiting for the ward to disappear. The poison that she herself configured, she understood well. If it had not been for her current strength not being enough, she would never have used it on Ji Yuner. In that instant, the atmosphere turned stagnant. Ji Yuner had not expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so adamant, and give everything back so easily. Isn't it said that the children of these families are very smart? Why do I feel that this Ji Yuner is exceptionally stupid? Xia Zhiqing frowned. She really couldn't understand Ji Yuner, who deliberately looked for trouble. Miss. The face of the cultivator who was heading the Ji family's people had become extremely embarrassed. He had always known the temper of his own lady, but this was not the time to lose it. Since the other had demanded this, shouldn't she be more thoughtful? Even 10 years were not late for a gentleman's revenge. Couldn't Ji Yuner even comprehend that? Thinking of this, the man's eyes could not help but fill with disappointment. Ji Yuner had such an IQ, it would not be easy to achieve a firm status in the Ji family in the future. Ji Yuner's face was pale, she was completely smothered in anger. She had lived arrogantly for so many years, when had she ever had to plead someone? Suddenly, Ji Yuner felt that there was something warm flowing from the tip of her nose. She reached out and saw that black blood was flowing out from her nose. It was like Bailey Hongzhuang said, this was a sign of poisoning. Ah, Ji Yuner screamed, but when she thought of dying such a bloody death, she was even more afraid. The pain was getting worse, and more blood flowed out of her nose. I don't want to die. Ji Yuner's voice was overwhelmed. I don't want to die. Her status was so honorable, and her days were extremely comfortable. How could she die like this? Ji Yuner lifted her eyes, her gaze falling onto Bailey Hongzhuang. She immediately shouted to Bailey Hongzhuang. I don't want to die. However, in response to Ji Yuner, Bailey Hongzhuang was still indifferent, even her brows did not move, as if she hadn't heard anything. Ji Yuner was really scared at this moment. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was the only hope she had to survive. She immediately crawled towards Bailey Hongzhuang. She grabbed onto Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes and shouted, "Save me, save me, save me, I beg you to save me." Even now, Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent. Chapter 511 Promising a favor. Seeing this scene, a complicated expression appeared in the eyes of Yan Lingxian and the others. The matters had grown to the present scene, it was all because of Ji Yuner. It was her who ruined her own situation. As long as Ji Yuner accepted, this matter would be resolved. If Ji Yuner had not made unnecessary provocations in the first place, she would have never been in this situation. However, the sudden change of Bailey Hongzhuang from the previously weak to the current strong stance made a chill run down their spines. This Bailey Hongzhuang is not a simple person. It is better if we don't fight her or offend her. Lin Yirou's eyes sparkled with foresight. So far, although they didn't know whether the poison was really given by Bailey Hongzhuang or another person, however, the means of Bailey Hongzhuang made it absolutely impossible to doubt her. Huang Fuhui also had the same feeling and nodded. She is very intelligent. Among all of us, she may be the weakest, but she still stands out the most. It is not strange that Ji Yuner has been defeated by her. Ina Lingxian shrunk his neck. Fortunately, there was the experimental shield Ji Yuner, otherwise, if he would have offended Bailey Hongzhuang at this moment, he was afraid that his condition would not be much better than Ji Yuner's. Even without her relationship with Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang was still a calm and terrible person. That was before, now, I am not going to help. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice and face were cold, her deep phoenix-like eyes filled with ice and determination, taking away the slightest hope from people. Ji Yuner only felt that the strength of her entire body was getting weaker and weaker, and the feeling of despair shrouded her. Previously, she only believed in her own family and did not believe she was going to die. However, now she no longer had any doubts. I beg you, I will never go against you again. Please save me. Ji Yuner cried. Ji Jia's head cultivator, 1, also requested. Miss Bailey, I want you to treat Our Lady's poisoning, this kindness we will keep in our minds when you need it in the future, we will not refuse to help you. His words made the faces of the people change again. Kindness from Ji Jia, it was a terrific thing. Compared to all the treasures that they had offered before, Ji Jia's favor was the most precious. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's face was full of incredulity. The situation had changed really too fast, making it hard to accept. To Bailey Hongzhuang's means, I really applaud. Lu Huaiyan smiled with a sigh of relief, thinking how he and Fu Hongbo had been so easily seen through by Bailey Hongzhuang when they first met. Bailey Hongzhuang at that time was already unfathomable. Di Gongzi, you have been acquaintances with our miss from many years. Di Bei-chen pondered for a moment, and then walked to the side of Bailey Hongzhuang, at an angle which could not be seen by everyone, too. Since Bailey Hongzhuang's purpose had been reached, they must make sure Ji Yuner didn't actually die. Nyangzi, I have known the girl for a long time, will you help her get rid of the poison? Hearing these words, Bailey Hongzhuang looked deeply into Di Bei-chen's eyes, but there was a trace of hesitation in her brows. She nodded. Then, all right. Ji Yuner's eyes flashed with excitement. The cultivators of Ji Jia also breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, they would not lose their lives. Thank you, thank you. Ji Yuner had no temper at the moment and actually began to thank him. List of chapters: 1. Not the head of the entire family, just this group of cultivators from Ji Jia. 2. The Ross says, which could not be seen by everyone. Chapter 5:12 Master is too black-bellied, too domineering. Xiao He excitedly raised his thumb. Their master's ability to reverse black and white was really powerful. Ji Yuner being so grateful to Di Bei-chen is exactly what their master had wanted to achieve. In this way, the Ji Jia cultivators would have to thank their master, and Ji Yuner would have to stop bothering them. Their master could really make great use of people without them even knowing, through her means. Master is too black-bellied. Xiao Bai said a bit emotionally. This time they had really made a big profit. Di Bei-chen's eyes were full of smiles. His own woman was really a clever little fox. She would not let others take advantage of her and was always the profiteer, making her even cuter in his eyes. In this case, I will help you get rid of the poison. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. It looked like if Di Bei-chen had not stepped in, she would not have helped Ji Yuner get rid of the poison. Therefore, Ji Yuner and the others were more and more grateful to Di Bei-chen. Bailey Hongzhuang directly took out a silver needle, and with great skill, quickly and accurately inserted it into an acupoint of Ji Yuner. Seeing this scene, in exception to the people of the Zhanglan College and Di Bei-chen, doubts emerged on the faces of other people. They had never seen such a strange healing method before. However, after Han Xiling saw what Bailey Hongzhuang was doing, the glimmer of light in her eyes dimmed, and her originally aloof appearance changed a bit. How is it possible? Han Xiling said. What is this treatment? I have never seen it before. Yan Ling Zan was greatly puzzled. In all his years, he had never seen a doctor use such a method for detoxification. Lin Yiro also, though hard as she frowned, her eyes locked tight onto Bailey Hongzhuang's movements. Why do I feel that this method is very familiar? I also have the same feeling. Huang Fuhui agreed with a nod. He must have heard of it, but he could not remember it at the moment. Suddenly, Lin Yiro and Huang Fuhui looked at each other. They both looked like they had seen a ghost. Yan Lingsun noticed the change in the two people, and could not help but question. Why do you have such an expression? Do you already know what Bailey Hongzhuang is doing? The lost art of acupuncture. Lin Yiro sighed softly. The art of acupuncture? Yan Lingxian's tone was forceful. How could he not know that the powerful art of healing with acupuncture had been long lost? However, this method had long since disappeared. He didn't know how many long years the doctors lamented the loss of this technique. If it was not for Lin Yiro, he would not have connected Bailey Hongzhuang with the long-lost acupuncture. The art of acupuncture. The faces of the four cultivator families and those of Tiangang Zone all changed. When they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, their eyes were full of horror. Through careful examination, they found that the technique used by Bailey Hongzhuang and the art of acupuncture looked really similar. Hasn't the art of acupuncture been lost for many years? How could it appear again? Yeah, even if it appears, it's not possible for it to appear in the hands of a young, little girl. Maybe it's true, this girl's medicine is very good. If not, how could she have developed a detoxification dan to deal with the miasma? The cultivators of Ji Jia were all filled with fascination. They were worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would not be able to cure their young miss, but now it seems that there would be no problem. Chapter 513 Playing a very good role of resemblance. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with amazement and constantly wondered if their thoughts were correct. "Miss Bailey, don't you have a detoxification dan?" one cultivator from Jia asked. They had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to purge the poison using a detoxification dan, but it now seemed that the situation was much more complicated. "I am not a prophet, how could I have a detoxification dan for her poisoning?" Hearing this question from Bailey Hongzhuang, Jia's cultivators looked embarrassed. So far, they could not determine whether this poison was the work of Bailey Hongzhuang. This time, they were really planted in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. However, as everyone saw the sweat dripping from Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead and her pale face, their looks changed. If this poison was really the work of Bailey Hongzhuang did not need to detoxify so laboriously. They were going to enter the ancient monument later, wasn't this asking for trouble? Was it true then that it was someone else who caused this poisoning? At the thought of this, the faces of Ji Yuner and Jia's cultivators became ugly and unsightly. She had been very careful even in the family, but she had not expected that she had been given a poison. This matter must be checked after they went back. "Master, in order to detoxify this annoying woman, you are even expending so much energy." Xiao Bai's eyes revealed the color of worry. Compared to the inheritance of the ancient monument, Jia's favor was nothing. Xiao He was also worried that their master would suffer a loss this time. Bailey Hongzhuang smirked and explained, "Don't worry, I am just putting up a show." Before she had poisoned her, she had already thought of everything. Detoxification was not too complicated, not at all like what it looked. It's just that she going to swindle them again. She was a physician, and it was not a problem for her to make her face look pale by using various methods. Xiao Bai and Xiao He were speechless, their master's methods were beyond their imagination. It was really not like her normal image. Inexplicably, they began to sympathize with the group of deceived cultivators of Jia. They were afraid that the other party had already begun thinking of who poisoned Ji Yuner. Even for someone wise like Di Beichen, at this moment, after seeing the face of Bailey Hongzhuang, his handsome face showed an expression of worry. When Bailey Hongzhuang used to treat him, he already knew the degree of fatigue it would cause Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang were to become weak now, then it was not good. After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang released the silver needle and said, "Okay." Ji Yuner felt a burst of joy when she listened to this, she had almost become lifeless. When she turned around, she saw the pale face of Bailey Hongzhuang. She couldn't say anything even if she felt like screaming. Was it true that someone from her family poisoned her? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression did not look fake, not to mention the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had saved her life. If she treated Bailey Hongzhuang with the same attitude as before, she was afraid everyone would despise her. "Thank you." Ji Yuner stood up and looking very unnatural, she walked away. Right now, her mood was very complicated and except for herself, I am afraid that no one could understand her. Lin Yiro and the others stared at Ji Yuner. It was really rare for her to put down her hatred, but in front of so many people, if she still acted jealously, then it would only evoke everyone's disgust. Chapter 514 Tenderness, Mine. As this scene happened, the others quietened down. Previously, the one creating a racket had been Ji Yuner, and the contradictions later were also because of her provocations. Now that Ji Yuner was no longer looking for trouble, everyone was naturally very quiet. Everything sent by Jia's cultivators was kept in the Qianquan bag. The behemoths like Jia were just like fat sheep slaughtered for riches in her eyes. Di Beichen walked up to sit down beside Bailey Hongzhuang, and quietly raised his thumb. Wifey's ruse was really wonderful. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose, and she looked at Di Beichen. "I didn't do anything." Hearing this, Di Beichen's lips arched in an evil smile, his wifey was really a cunning little fox. For the means of his own wife, he was quite aware that she would never suffer a loss whenever and wherever she was. Next, the handsome face of Di Beichen showed a touch of seriousness and concern. Nyangzi, you just helped detoxify Ji Yuner, how is your body? Saying this, Di Beichen took out a Dan medicine and took it up to Bailey Hongzhuang's cinnabar lips. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and signaled that she was fine. She said, "Don't worry. I have no problems." However, Di Beichen still stubbornly tried to feed it to Hongzhuang. "You will enter the monument later, and your state is like this. How can I feel at ease?" Looking at the care and distress in Bai Beichen's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's own eyes flashed with the light of warmth, and she could not stop the spreading traces of gentleness. She had always been hesitant about accepting Di Beichen. Firstly, because of the disparity in their identity, and regardless of who she was in the past, right now she was just the daughter of an ordinary general from a small country, not to mention the inexplicable hatred. 1. Secondly, because she had treated Di Beichen's legs, perhaps Beichen was only grateful to her, and so he had been taking care of her. However, under such circumstances when Di Beichen cared for her, her firm heart gradually melted. Even now, Di Beichen was not clear about her inner thoughts, but she felt that if Di Beichen would always be with her, she would also be happy. The feeling of being cared for by another person felt really good. When Di Beichen saw Bailey Hongzhuang looking up at him, he looked at the limpid, watery eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang, his heart shaking and a smile spreading on his lips. On this trip to the ancient monument, he and his wifey could make such a progress, he really felt it was worthwhile. "Rest assured, my paleness is just a disguise, and in fact, there is no damage," Bailey Hongzhuang said softly. "You keep your Dan for now, until the time we need it and then use it." Di Beichen paused, but after seeing the gradually improving face of Bailey Hongzhuang, he also began to believe in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, and in his heart, there was an even bigger sigh. It seems that even he had been fooled by his wifey's means. Not far away, Han Xiling was looking at the closeness of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. A smudge of haze slowly appeared in her eyes, and the hands under the sleeves were clenched into fists. She had never seen Di Gij show such tenderness until Bailey Hongzhuang appeared. That kind of tenderness, she had hoped for many times in her midnight dreams. However, Di Beichen never showed her such tenderness, and it was now dedicated to another woman. No! That tenderness should be hers. It had just been 3 years, she must take back the tenderness that belongs to her. Chapter 5:15. Leaving and entering the monument, the ward is gradually disappearing. A shout came, and everyone's gazes immediately locked onto the ancient monument. The ward, which was originally shining with a colorful light, gradually dissipated, like the melting of the snow, and there was no obstruction between the people and the relic. The white body of the monument was magnificent, and a tall and thick white jade door appeared in front of everyone. In the face of such a huge door, everyone's heart was inevitably filled with a sense of awe. As a younger generation, in the face of a legacy left by a predecessor, they would always feel awe and yearning. "The ward has disappeared, we now enter it." Lu Huayan's voice was full of excitement, and his originally faint breathing had become rushed. Everyone nodded and their eyes shone with the rich light of excitement. For the treasures in the monument, they had long been blinded. The moment when the ward completely disappeared, the 4 cultivation families and Tiangang Zone had already begun making their move and rushed to the monument without hesitation. The treasures inside were all unknown, first come first serve, the ones coming late could only rob from the hands of other people. "Nyangzi, be careful after entering. If you can, you must follow behind me." Di Beichen's face was filled with a dignified color, and he gazed deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. The traces of worry in his eyes were overflowing as he said these words. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "I understand. Okay, let's go in." Di Beichen nodded and immediately took the hand of Bailey Hongzhuang and rushed towards the door. Lu Huayan and the others also no longer hesitated, and they too rushed towards the door. Only Lu Qinyu stayed in the same place. She had already made her decision, and even though the inside would be full of eyes-catching treasures, the most important thing was to keep your life. "Gong Gij, 1, I will be waiting for you at the Tsanglan College." You must come back safely. Lu Qinyu looked at the departing back of Gong Shaoqing and couldn't help but shout. There were faint tears in her eyes. She was really worried about this, if she went back first, and was unable to see Gong Shaoqing later. I will. Gong Shaoqing responded, but never looked back. Ding ding ding. 2. The crowd had just pushed open the heavy doors when countless arrows flew directly at them from inside. Some of the cultivators who could not act quick enough were hit by these arrows and lost their lives. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had started a few moments later than everyone else, so they stopped after seeing the arrow attack. Sure enough, there are many organs, 3, in the ancient monument. They must have been activated when the door was opened. There was a faint emotion in the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, and the previously white building had been contaminated with blood, and the faint bloody smell was also spreading in the air. The dignified emotion in Di Beichen's eyes was getting thicker and thicker. The danger in this monument is a bit more than we anticipated. In my opinion, it will not be a simple matter to enter this monument. We don't need to be too anxious. Let's go in after everyone enters. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with wisdom. This ruin was so huge that there must be passages in every direction when they enter. Even if they go in late, they will not lose out on too much. Hearing these words, Di Beichen was amazed in his heart. At this moment, his wife was not blinded by the treasures inside the monument. On the contrary, she was so calm, which really made him feel at ease. Chapter 5 16 Choices, Different Channels. Ding ding. The sound of clanging iron and gold sounded, and the arrows that shot out from the ancient monument were swept away by powerful and sturdy cultivators. Apart from the initial cultivators who were directly hit by the arrows, others were never injured. After the rain of fired arrows stopped, everyone went in again, but their speed was a lot slower than before. No, they were full of caution about this monument. However, until everyone entered the monument, no other attacks or traps emerged. Boom! The crowd had just entered the ancient monument when a loud and heavy voice sounded, and the previously open doors had been closed shut. Everyone was shocked and wanted to open the doors of the ancient monument again, only to find that no matter how hard they tried, the door was not moving. For a time, everyone's heart sank. It seemed that they had no way out. As the doors had been closed, everything had fallen into darkness, and the darkness enveloped everyone, making them reach out for those near them. Where is this? Why is it so strange? Bai Junyu frowned. The situation inside the ancient monument right now was beyond his expectations. I don't know, but with this darkness, I can't see the path at all. How do we go? Xia Zhiqing replied. She had already heard that anything could happen in ancient monuments, but this event of closing them in was beyond her imagination. Did they want to keep all of them here? Suddenly, a golden halo appeared in front of everyone, and the surroundings were still dark, but everyone could judge that this halo was coming from deep within the monument, illuminating different channels. It seems that we have to choose a way. Di Beichen's voice was heavy. At first glance, they could see that the passages in front of them were all the same, and there was no difference at all. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slowly. Different channels may have different results. This kind of thing, apart from the master of the monument, they would simply not know the final result. Once they chose wrongly, they may be trapped in the monument forever, and never see the sunshine again. The cruelty of ancient monuments had always been famous. Once they succeeded, the cultivators would undergo a qualitative change, but once they failed, it meant death. The appearance of every ancient monument was accompanied by the fall of countless cultivators, so everyone had to care about the attraction that such inheritance emitted. With so many channels, which one should I choose? Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix-like eyes narrowed, her eyes constantly darting between the many channels in front of her, looking for differences, not giving up on any clue she could find. Once she chose, she may lose her life, so she can't be careless. This kind of an ancient monument is really on another level. There is no difference between these channels. Xiao He could not help but sigh. It had observed for a long time, let alone any differences. Even the brightness of the light was exactly the same. Which should they choose? It seems that we can only rely on luck for this thing. Xiao Bai was also helpless. All the people with good brains were most afraid of encountering situations depending on pure luck. All the people had been silent for a while, but they had become impatient. There were those who were unwilling to wait, and directly choose a channel and walked into it. No matter, let's go straight in and see. The voice fell, and a cultivator had already walked into the passage nearest to him. With this initiative, other cultivators also followed suit after a few moments of thought, choosing their paths to go inside. Chapter 517 Nyangzi, which one do you choose? Huang Fu Hui, are you going in? Yan Ling Xian looked at Di Bei Chen, who had still not decided, and asked. In the blink of an eye, most of the cultivators had gone, and they had not heard the slightest news from these people after they had entered the passages. The cultivators had entered in almost every channel. He had been looking at the passages for a long time but had never seen any problems with any of them. It was really impossible to continue to wait. Listening to Yan Ling Xian's question, Huang Fu Hui's face was also a little helpless. I can't find any differences. I'm going in. Lin Yiro nodded softly, and there was a glimmer of light on her pretty face. I will also walk in. Life and death have their own destiny, and I believe that my life will not be so bad. Her voice falling, Lin Yiro did not hesitate to walk into the channel in front of her, looking firm and decisive. Seeing Lin Yiro's decisive decision, Yan Ling Xian and Huang Fu Hui looked at each other a moment and walked into the passage that they had chosen. Ji Yuner also no longer delayed after seeing everyone's actions. Now she only felt embarrassed when she saw Bailey Hong Zhuang. It was better to make a choice early. Hong Zhuang, in my opinion, now we can only choose indiscriminately. Xia Zhiqing's face flashed with a bit of helplessness. At this moment, it was no longer possible to continue hesitating. Since it was all luck, they could only choose with faith in themselves. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly, and her face also had traces of helplessness. Yes, just pick one, the situation may not be what we imagined. Xia Zhiqing took the lead, and Gong Shaoqing and the others also entered the channels. For the time being, only Bailey Hong Zhuang, Di Bei Chen and Han Xiling were left. Han Xiling went directly to the side of Di Bei Chen, and her beautiful and delicate face did not hide her intimateness and dependence on Di Bei Chen. Di Gij, which channel will you choose? I will go with you. Han Xiling asked. Di Bei Chen's expression had a momentary change, but he quickly recovered his neutral look. Obviously, he had not expected Han Xiling to ask to go with him. However, after thinking about it, he felt it was very normal. After all, they had both gone out for experiences together before. Master, it seems that this Han Xiling wants to wrap around your man. Xiao Hei's face was full of disgust and dissatisfaction. The most hateful things were such white lotuses. It was clear that her heart was black, but on the surface, she was still pretending with this kind of understanding, beautiful and moving appearance. Just looking at her, it felt a bit disgusted. This trouble can't be solved for a while, but she will disappear from in front of my eyes sooner or later. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked indifferent. She did not care about Han Xiling following Di Bei Chen. Since she was willing to follow, let her follow. Han Xiling and Di Bei Chen had been together for so many years, but Di Bei Chen had no feelings for her in his heart. She had nothing to worry about. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with an inexplicable emotion. They didn't understand what their master was thinking. It was reasonable to say that such an annoying person like Han Xiling was definitely not good news. Why was the master not worried at all? Nyangzi, which one will you choose? Di Bei Chen looked into Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes, his own still full of tenderness. Whichever one his wifey chose, was the one he would take. Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang's line of sight swept over all the passages and finally settled on the leftmost passage. I choose that one. This channel had been chosen by the fewest number of people, but she had a feeling about this channel. Chapter 518 Di Bei Chen's attitude. In fact, it was not only because of that fact that Billy Hongzhuang chose that channel, but because when she pointed at the passage, she found that the ring of chaos trembled slightly. This was the first time that she had felt such a reaction from the ring of chaos. She had been experimenting before, and she found that when she pointed to these passages, the ring of chaos sometimes had no movement, but sometimes it trembled, and the intensity of vibration was different for the passages. Among them, the most volatile reaction was from this channel, so she did not hesitate to choose this channel. Di Bei Chen looked at the passage and nodded, "Whichever one you choose is the one we will take." However, as Di Bei Chen was preparing to walk forward, Han Xiling suddenly held Di Bei Chen's sleeves and said, "Di Gij, I think that passage is not good, we should choose the one in the middle." With the voice of Han Xiling falling, the atmosphere around stagnated. This was no doubt giving Di Bei Chen two choices. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent and said, "Then I will move forward." At this moment, she would not fight unnecessarily with Han 11 to show her sovereignty. Others had already begun to act, and she could no longer continue to delay. Her words were said, and Bailey Hongzhuang no longer hesitated and went straight towards the leftmost channel. Han Xiling saw that Bailey Hongzhuang walked off without a fight, and a touch of smugness quietly flashed through her eyes, and she then said, "Di Gij, however, without talking to Han Xiling, Di Bei Chen interrupted her words, said, "Xiling, since you think that the channel in the middle is right, you go there, it should be no problem with your strength, I will go first." With this, Di Bei Chen did not hesitate walking in the direction of Bailey Hongzhuang. He had already said he would not let Bailey Hongzhuang be alone. He was also very familiar with the attitude of Bailey Hongzhuang who had left. His time with Hongzhuang was not short, the arrogance in her heart he could understand very well. He was afraid that the appearance of Xiling would only cause her dissatisfaction. With the arrogance of his wife, she would not fight for him and find it an unnecessary problem. He really should solve this problem quickly. Seeing Di Bei Chen leave so hastily, Han Xiling's face was ugly. Once upon a time, Di Bei Chen never had such an attitude towards her, leaving directly and not even giving her a little face. In just 3 years, Di Gij had such a big change. At the moment when Bailey Hongzhuang entered the passage, Di Bei Chen once again took her hand. "Nyangzi, you can't leave your husband behind and go by yourself." Di Bei Chen's voice was slightly teasing, but the words sounded seriously in Bailey Hongzhuang's ears, and her palms had been wrapped with his warm ones. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her line of sight and looked over the handsome face of Di Bei Chen, which held a smile and an expression of indulgence, so close, so warm. After all, he did not hesitate to choose her and walk with her, and Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth overflowed with a smile. She understood that the reason for Di Bei Chen's current attitude to Han Xiling was because he and Han Xiling had known each other for many years. Now, the actions of Di Bei Chen had clearly demonstrated his attitude. He had nothing more to do with Han Xiling except for their friendship in addition to their many years of acquaintance. Bailey Hongzhuang tightly held on to Di Bei Chen's hand, a shallow smile of her charming face. "Let's go." Only Han Xiling stood in the same place, watching the backs of the two people. Her eyes were very murky. Chapter 519 Lost in an Illusion. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chen walked in the passage, they found that there was still no end to the darkness. Both were walking quite fast. However, no matter how fast the two's speed was, there was still a long darkness before them, as if there was no end. "What kind of passage is this? It's really weird." Bailey Hongzhuang's brows knotted. They had been walking for so long, it was reasonable to say that even if the monument was huge, they would have already come to an end. "It seems that there is no danger in this passage, but it is only a test of whether we can find the exit." Di Bei Chen's voice was low, and his eyes were constantly looking around the passage. Needless to say, he had already guessed that they had been walking so long and not seen anyone. It was possibly because they have not yet noticed the place where the exit was. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. There was no danger in this passage, which made her relieved. At least she did not have to worry about her life. "If it is as I expect, then what we see in front of us should be an illusion." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was determined and confident. She had seen illusions before, but the illusion cast by each cultivator was different. What the illusion they saw in front of them was despairing darkness. Illusion? Di Beichen slowly said, and there were some confusion and wonder between his eyebrows. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The illusion is just a fictitious scene created by cultivators in a special way. If other cultivators are caught in it, they may not even know it. Perhaps in the eyes of others, we are just standing still. This monument size we have seen on the outside, and it is absolutely impossible for this passage to go on for so long, therefore, an illusion is the only possible answer. There was such a special method, I'd never heard of, Di Beichen lamented. His wifey knew a lot of things. Though when he thought about it, he felt that his wifey's words were very reasonable. Seeing that Di Beichen had never heard of illusions, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but pause. In the era of her previous life, illusions was an art that many cultivators had mastered. However, each person's illusions were different. Some cultivators have poor illusion which was not enough to confuse people, and there were some cultivators who were extremely superb and could make the people live carefree in the jaws of death but have no knowledge. It should not be impossible to have heard of illusions before with Di Beichen's identity. Di Beichen's serious appearance did not look fake. Was it true that only in the past 1,000 years, the art of illusions had completely disappeared from the Xingxue continent? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang thought this, Di Beichen's next words made her affirm her own guess. Nyangzi, you know a lot of things, even I can't compare. His deep as sea eyes were full of admiration. Di Beichen thought that he knows a lot of things, but when compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, he found that the knowledge he had was not as good as his wifey. Whether it was the technique of vibrating needles or acupuncture or even the current illusion, he had never known of them before, but Bailey Hongzhuang had mastered them. This was not ordinary. Just, who was his wife? Why did she know about the lost things that many people had not heard of at all? Thinking of this, Di Beichen's hand holding onto Bailey Hongzhuang's could not help but tighten, and the feelings that Bailey Hongzhuang made him feel really made him embarrassed. It made him feel like he could not grasp onto her. It seemed that there was an invisible layer of cloth that separated him from Bailey Hongzhuang so that he could not truly look at her. Chapter 528 Flaw, A Mysterious Illusion. She did not care much about the secret of her identity. It was just that such a thing, even if it got out, no one would believe it. She was also not willing to add more trouble. If in the future, she and Di Beichen reached a point where their hearts and souls could connect, she may tell this thing calmly to Di Beichen. As for now, she pushed her inexplicable knowledge onto her imaginary master. We will observe the nuances in the vicinity. As long as this is an illusion, there will be flaws, but it is difficult to find these flaws. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded, but the hand holding Bailey Hongzhuang's was not released. He just looked carefully at everything around him. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher were not idle at this moment, and they also helped Bailey Hongzhuang to find flaws in this illusion. This is really enough. There is nothing more than darkness here. Where can anyone find flaws? Xiao He finally couldn't help his helplessness, his eyes drying. He couldn't find any flaws here. Which great master designed and created such an illusion? Xiao Bai, who had been silent all this while, said, looking for flaws in such a place, it was a joke. Just as the two of them trapped in the passage, the situation of other cultivators was worse than them. Just like the fluctuations from the Ring of Chaos, among the unresponsive passages, the cultivators who walked in had died, and the smell of blood gradually spread. And those passages which produced relatively small fluctuations had emergences of various traps. These traps had certain risks, but as long as your response was fast enough, it was not impossible to escape from these traps. Among all the passages, there was no risk only in the passage Bailey Hongzhuang chose. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped a moment since she had already determined the situation in front of her. They would not have to continue moving forward. Where is the flaw? Bailey Hongzhuang was constantly thinking about this, and looking at the ground tried to look for any differences there. No matter what, no matter where she observes, she had not found any problems at all. There seems to be no problem here, wifey, is it really an illusion? Di Bei-chen asked. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment, shook her head and said, no, this must be an illusion. Since we can only go back and forth, then we will try to walk to the side. A bright light appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. In the past, she also had a certain understanding of illusions. Usually, in such a situation, the effect she wanted could be achieved as long as she did the opposite. Sideways? Di Bei-chen had some doubts, he did not understand what she meant to say. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. This is a characteristic of illusions. Let's try it first. If it succeeds, I will explain it to you. Good. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Bei-chen, saying, now, close your eyes, in your mind think firmly that everything in front of you is fake, don't doubt it, then go the side and walk towards the wall, do not hesitate. Di Bei-chen replied with no hesitance, he always believed in Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if it looked like a hard wall in front of him, it was very likely that it was an illusion, and he had no doubt about it. Chapter 521 Successful, The Hall of the Monument. Next, Di Bei-chen and Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate to smash straight through the walls on the sides. Seeing this scene, Xiao He, Xiao Bai and Baisher couldn't help but cover their eyes. This was too cruel. Directly hitting the wall, if it was not as their master predicted, then Master and Di Bei-chen would be really unlucky. Boom! A loud noise blasted in Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chen's ears. The two only felt that they had hit the real thing accidentally, but the expected pain did not come. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly opened her eyes, but she saw Di Bei-chen looking at her with a smile. The darkness in front of them, they did not when, it had disappeared, and it was replaced by bright light. Wifey, we have succeeded. In Di Bei-chen's eyes, there was difficult to conceal the expression of surprise. He was really convinced by the wisdom of his wife. For this illusion, he simply did not understand it. If his wife had not thought of the flaws in the illusion, he was afraid that he could not estimate how much time he would have wasted in the passage. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips parted in a faint smile. It seems that what she had expected was indeed true. In front of them, there were passages intricately extending in all directions, and tightly closed stone chambers appeared on both sides of the passageway, and some treasures were placed in these stone chambers. The two turned their heads and saw that all the darkness they had seen before was unreal, and the long, unending passage was in fact just a short road of 12 meters. However, they also saw a lot of cultivators constantly stepping past them, their faces full of ecstasy, just like there were treasures in front of them. In other passages, there were also many bodies. Seeing this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes unintentionally fell onto the ring of chaos on her hand. If it wasn't for the ring of chaos guiding her to a safe passage, she would not have so easily broken out of the predicament. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang saw Xia Zhiqing who was still on the other side, and she shouted, Zhiqing. Zhiqing, can you hear me? However, no matter how Bailey Hongzhuang shouted, Xia Zhiqing still blankly walked ahead. Obviously, she couldn't hear the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang was also somewhat helpless. Fortunately, the road they chose was not a dead end, and she was relieved. Then, let's go first. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Bei-chen. Di Bei-chen nodded, walking forward with Bailey Hongzhuang. Boom! As a stone room opened, countless particles of dust were stirred up, and Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chen discovered that there were a lot of martial arts on the inside. The level of these martial arts was not high, mostly they were yellow-grade martial arts, but it was still possible to auction a lot of these at expensive prices. As Bailey Hongzhuang picked up a martial art, she discovered that the martial art directly disintegrated onto the ground. It seems that these martial arts have been in this chamber for too many long years, and the paper has now been turned into ash. Martial arts were the essence of many cultivators, so it was a pity that they had decayed with time. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, no longer delaying. She said, "It seems that these martial arts can't be saved, we'll go back." "Good." Di Bei-chen agreed. From the degree of aging of these papers, it seems that this monument is at least a few hundred years old. It's been here a long time, a lot of the treasures will be no longer useful, let's just look at what else is still here. Chapter 522 Treasures, Mysterious Stone Room. Di Bei-chen and Bailey Hongzhuang walked forward. The stone rooms by the side of the path were opened by them, and some things inside had turned useless over time. However, when the two left, they still carefully closed the doors of the stone tools. It took a little time and delayed them. Although with the existence of the illusion everyone would be trapped for a while, they believed that after a period of time, everyone will understand the key to breaking it. The time this monument has been buried is too long. Except for the inheritance left by the Lord, I am afraid that there will not be many useful things. After opening a few stone chambers in a row, a bright light flashed in Di Bei-chen's eyes. The treasures had been sealed. It was not good for it to be so for a long time. Too many resources became useless as time went by, and there was very little they could get. For example, just now, they saw a small arsenal of weapons, but the weapons had become like waste residue over time. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. After being buried for such a long time, all treasures must have turned to waste. For them, ordinary weapons and martial arts were not of much use, and they could only be sold to gain money. Although money was important, they were not lacking for the time being, so it didn't matter either way. The two people went all the way forward, and some of the stone chambers were directly omitted. Most of the treasure's value in the stone rooms in front of them was not very precious. It was better to go to more important places. When Bailey Hongzhuang came to the front of a stone chamber, there were some doubts in her beautiful eyes. The door of this stone chamber seemed slightly different from the stone room doors she had seen before. The thick little white door was a little bigger than the other stone doors. Even if she wanted to open it with a push, she found that the stone door could not be budged. Upon seeing this, Di Bei-chen's figure flashed forward, and a fist unhesitantly hit on the stone door. Boom! Debris fell to the ground, but the stone door had not moved at all. This stone chamber seems to be different. Di Bei-chen's handsome eyes slightly narrowed, and his line of sight solidified onto the stone door. "Master, I feel that there are energy fluctuations here." Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with exuberance and he excitedly told this to Bailey Hongzhuang. Listening to the words of Xiao Hei, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also filled with a bright light. Until now they had not had even a little harvest. Perhaps the stone chamber in front of them would yield something. "What kind of energy fluctuations do you feel?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked as she searched for ways to open the stone door. Xiao Bai shook his head. "I don't know, I can only affirm that the energy fluctuations in the stone chamber are very strong. There should be a treasure inside." "Wifey, this stone chamber's door won't open, presumably it must be something good." Di Bei-chen's voice was a little dignified, and his eyes were constantly looking around the stone room. With his hunch, the value of the thing inside must be higher than the value of the things in the other stone rooms. Next, Di Bei-chen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other and no longer hesitated. On both sides of the stone door, they looked for an organ. Bailey Hongzhuang's hands touched the sides of the stone door, and the flat wall was exceptionally smooth, with no bumps. In this regard, Bailey Hongzhuang did not find it unexpected. If there really was a treasure inside here, then this organ would not be so easy to find. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.